It starts exactly how you expect a contemporary post-college novel to start. Four friends move to New York City, determined to carve out their futures. You have Malcolm, the wealthy, anxious architect; JB, the striving, self-centered artist; Willem, the kind, aspiring actor; and Jude, the brilliant, intensely private lawyer. For the first 100 pages, they roam the streets of downtown Manhattan, complaining about tiny apartments, navigating early career failures, and testing the limits of their friendship. But this familiar, optimistic ensemble setup is a trap. The author is using these recognizable tropes to disarm you, preparing to pivot the narrative into one of the darkest psychological studies in modern literature. As the characters age, they achieve staggering, almost unimaginable wealth and career success. But the focus tightens strictly onto Jude, whose private reality is entirely detached from his external achievements. He suffers from mysterious, agonizing chronic pain in his legs, and in profound isolation, he engages in severe, methodical self-harm just to manage his daily existence. This is the actual conflict of the novel. It abandons outward ambition to document a brutal, losing war against a person's own mind. It forces us to ask a terrifying question. Can extreme adult success, wealth, and fierce friendship ever actually outweigh profound, hidden trauma? The narrative answers that question by agonizingly peeling back the layers of Jude's past, unveiling the horrors of his childhood across hundreds of pages. We learn he was abandoned at birth and endured years of systemic sexual abuse at a monastery, orchestrated by a man he thought was a father figure, Brother Luke. Later, he escapes, only to be kidnapped and sadistically tortured by a psychiatrist named Dr. Traylor, an ordeal that leaves him with lifelong physical disabilities. This diagram represents the compounding logic of his abuse. Every betrayal adds a crushing block of evidence to Jude's internal calculus, cementing his belief that he is disgusting, broken, and undeserving of life. This relentless sequence of extreme childhood violence creates the book's central premise, an unhealable wound, a psychological baseline of zero self-worth that defies all normal avenues of recovery. To test the permanence of this wound, the novel applies an equally extreme opposing force, a staggering, almost fairy tale level of devotion from Jude's chosen adult family. His former law professor Harold and his wife Julia officially adopt Jude when he is 30 years old, desperately trying to give him the permanent family he never had. Willem transitions from his loyal college roommate into a fiercely devoted romantic partner, dedicating his life to keeping Jude safe. His physician, Andy, goes to extraordinary, ethically precarious lengths to manage Jude's failing body and conceal his escalating self-harm. For a brief window, the narrative lulls us back into optimism. We are led to believe that this overwhelming, suffocating blanket of love and protection might actually be enough to manage or even heal the trauma. Then, Willem is killed in a car accident. In a single moment, the emotional anchor keeping Jude tethered to the world is permanently severed. In the aftermath, Jude's carefully constructed life rapidly disintegrates into severe anorexia and uncontrollable, dangerous episodes of self-injury. Harold, Andy, and his remaining friends launch agonizing, desperate interventions, physically forcing him to eat and seeking hospitalizations to keep him alive. But their efforts fail. Unable to endure the physical and psychological agony without Willem, Jude completes suicide. The healing narrative totally collapses, proving that the cumulative burden of his trauma was simply too heady for him or anyone else to carry forever. This conclusion actively subverts our deepest cultural expectation, the idea that love conquers all. It forces a highly controversial thesis onto the reader. Some people are, in fact, broken beyond repair, and forcing them to stay alive solely for the comfort of those who love them can become an agonizing burden. In the novel's closing pages, Harold writes a bittersweet final letter. He acknowledges the tragic inevitability of Jude's death, while still honoring the immense, exhausting effort they all made to keep him safe for as long as they did. Jude's life ended in unmanageable tragedy, yet the final takeaway of the novel is that his existence was paradoxically defined by an extraordinary, desperate capacity to give and receive love.